In the spring of 2014, Alex Honnold and I decided to put together a bike-powered climbing trip to the American Southwest.
I suggested desert towers, try to bike around and climb as many desert towers as we can.
Alex was stoked on that because he's been doing a bunch of nonprofit work, and we would be climbing on the Navajo Nation where he wanted to do a solar installation. So we put together an itinerary of 45 of the raddest towers in the desert and planned to basically bike over 800 miles, starting in southwest Colorado, moving into Utah, popping over to New Mexico, and then finishing the trip in Arizona where we'd be doing our solar project. From the very beginning, we realized we might have bitten off a little more than we could chew. Springtime in the desert normally would mean warm weather and a lot of sun, but this year we just got blasted by freezing temperatures, high winds, and frequent storms.
It's so windy!
And now it's snowing.
It's snowing quite hard.
Very windy!
Oh my God. Even when the weather wasn't that bad, the rock usually was. The sandstone that forms these desert towers can range from fairly solid to horrifyingly loose.
So we just climbed a teetering pile of mud. It was among the most disgusting things we've ever done.
Like, I have sand coating my internal organs. Through it all, we managed to keep biking and climbing nearly every day without rest and finished 3 weeks after we started with a fair bit of unique life experience in our belts and feeling more than a little worse for wear.
Oh, my God.
Thank God it's over, dude. I'm gonna throw my bike out in traffic real quick. The entire trip, Alex and I joked about suffering and how heinous it was, but the reality is that we're lucky to be able to electively suffer like this. And one thing we talked about at the start of this journey was that we really wanted to finish it off in a way that acknowledged that fact.
The thing is, our trip is probably easier than most people's normal lives. Just in northern Arizona, there are 18,000 Navajo with no access to electricity.
Since I've known Alex, it's been really cool to watch him go from being basically just a selfish rock climber to someone who really cares about the earth and the people on it. In the last few years, he's given over $150,000 of his own money to different alternative energy causes through his nonprofit, the Honnold Foundation. One of the cool things about this trip was that we got to visit one of the projects that Honnold is supporting, which is a solar energy project on the Navajo Nation near some of the towers we were climbing on.
You know, a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago, I started sort of toying with the idea of starting some kind of nonprofit because my lifestyle has stayed the same, but my income has changed quite a bit. And so now it's vastly out of proportion with like what I need to live and what I'm happy with living. So I was like, well, I might as well give all the extra to things that I think are important. I happen to find energy access type issues the most interesting. Being able to read, being able to use a cell phone, being able to connect with the world around you. Basically being able to do anything after dark.
Here in this area, in Monument Valley, these people, they can't have electricity because to put up power lines would mess up the aesthetic beauty of the land. And that would interfere with the tourism aspects. So we're trying to provide clean energy alternatives to people who want electricity, but to do so in a way that's ecologically friendly.
I mean, we're only going to show up for a few days and help with some installations and just sort of like see what happens. But the actual project that we're financing lasts for the next 14 months, I think. And they go into the Navajo lands, distribute panels to those in need. They like set up a system with the schools, they educate kids, and then they set up solar entrepreneurs who can sell the systems to other people within the community.
For those like business-minded people who want to start their own businesses, who want to provide access to clean energy to those around them and do something good for their community, that's what this project is making possible.
I mean, as much as I love climbing, it's still just kind of a game that we all play. You know, someday somebody else will just do it better and other people will climb other things and like it doesn't really matter. But it's nice to do something that has like a slightly bigger impact on the world, but like something that actually matters, that affects like the quality of other people's lives.
I really admire Alex for trying to do something, you know, that in his own small way might make a difference.
Something that I've thought about a lot that sort of applies to both climbing and the environmentalism, the nonprofit type stuff that I've been working on, is basically the idea of just like tiny little steps towards like a bigger objective. I mean, you see that on something like this bike tour where you have some kind of long-term goal that seems sort of insurmountable if you think about the whole thing. But then once you start into it and just start chewing off little pieces, you do it and you're like, oh wow, it turns out it is possible. And you know, maybe that's because I'm young and naive and too optimistic and whatever. You know, and I feel like if everybody just tried to help out in whatever way they could, it certainly would improve the world quite a bit.